This video covers a sensitive true crime case involving a child. All violent or graphic details have been removed to comply with YouTube's content policy. Viewer discretion is advised. When a missing person case starts spreading all over social media, you know how it goes. Everyone has their own theory. Everyone has inside sources. Everyone heard it from a friend of a friend. And just like that, in the chaos of endless speculation, the truth begins to drift away. Some people will say, "Don't talk about it until the case is solved." Sounds reasonable, right? But when the victim still hasn't been found, silence sometimes means that no one hears that cry for help anymore. Many of you have messaged us asking, what's really going on with this case? And today, we're going to talk about it. But don't worry, every detail in this video comes from official sources and verified data because the investigation is still ongoing. This is a story that needs to be told about Nazia Harris, a 13-year-old girl who disappeared more than a year ago. And to this day, the entire city is still waiting for answers. And as always, let's begin. Nazia Harris, known to her family as Nia, was born on September 16, 2010, in Detroit, Michigan. From the outside, her life seemed pretty normal, just like any other middle school student. She was an A student at J.E. Clark Preparatory Academy, smart, outgoing, and very active on social media, especially TikTok, where Nia often shared cheerful moments of her 13-year-old life. Truly the definition of bright, kind, and full of life. According to a local podcast, Nia's family story wasn't exactly smooth. Her father, Mvin Jennings, was married at the time, but the relationship was going through a rough patch, partly due to his unhealthy lifestyle. Nia's mother, Chantel, was described as someone who loved to party and lived an unstable life during that period, for various personal reasons. Both parents eventually transferred custody of Nia to her grandmother, Annette Harris. Mvin explained that he made that decision to avoid hurting his wife and to allow Annette to receive the legal support she needed to raise her granddaughter. He said he still tried to visit his daughter whenever he could and sent some money to help. But over time, illness and multiple heart surgeries made communication increasingly rare. By the time this story began, Nia was 13 years old, living with her grandmother Annette in Detroit. She was a young girl with neatly braided dark hair, a gentle smile, and intelligent eyes. Everything about her reflected the innocence of a growing child. But behind that sweet appearance, Nia's life was far from normal. No one knew that she was living in a dangerous environment. And just a few steps away from tragedy, Nia's aunt, Shannon Harris, was in a relationship with a man named Jarvis Butts. And if you're thinking, so what, just her aunt's boyfriend? Well, no. This is where things began to spiral out of control. Jarvis was the kind of person with a disturbing pattern of behavior. And no, not the harmless kind. For years, he had a tendency to approach families with young children and engage in serious misconduct. He had previously been convicted in 2005, released from prison, but later placed on a long-term watch list for being connected to a serious case involving a minor. From 2012 to 2014, he was linked to a young victim, another child, even younger, who suffered deep physical and emotional harm. According to medical records from that case, the girl showed clear signs of health damage believed to be the result of his actions. During the period of 2015 to 2017, similar allegations arose. again believed to involve Jarvis. There was evidence indicating the victim suffered significant harm, marking him as a potential threat to everyone around him. And then he met Nia, who at that time was still just a child. Some family members didn't want Jarvis anywhere near Nia, and honestly, who would? His reputation had been around for years, the kind where just hearing his name meant trouble was coming. But as usual, those warnings went unheard. From 2015 to 2022, Jarvis had at least 5 reports filed with CPS, Child Protective Services, related to allegations of serious misconduct involving minors. And guess what? He was still out there, walking free, as if nothing had happened. Shannon, Nia's aunt, knew about it. She even confided in other family members. 2 of them, Janelle Smith Holland and Kawana Morton, took it upon themselves to file reports when they realized things were getting far too serious. In February 2022, during a birthday party, Jarvis was accused of engaging in serious, inappropriate behavior with 2 minors. Janelle learned about it through Shannon, urged her niece to report it to CPS, and Shannon promised she would. But, like many promises in situations like this, it never happened. By April, Janelle personally contacted CPS and reported the incident to authorities. Shannon was later questioned about her children's safety and had to provide information about Jarvis. Another relative, Kawana Morton, also filed a report after hearing Shannon describe what had happened. She emphasized that Jarvis's behavior was deeply concerning within the family context. CPS interviewed Jarvis, and, of course, he denied everything. They also spoke to the other girl involved and searched the home. But the outcome? Nothing changed. No steps were taken to protect Nia. When questioned by the media, CPS simply stated they could not comment on specific cases. Classic, like so many tragedies that could have been prevented. Everything was recorded, filed away, and forgotten. According to internal reports, at least some protective actions were taken regarding the other girl mentioned in Kiwana's complaint. But for Nia Harris, nothing. CPS even sent a warning to the Detroit Police Department saying that Nia's safety was at risk. And guess what happened next? No one followed up. From 2023 to 2024, Shannon and Jarvis officially broke up. But breaking up with him didn't mean he disappeared from her life. Jarvis was still around, as the father of their children, and that meant he was still part of Nia's world. And the strange thing was, even after everything that happened, he still called Nia his niece. Yeah, that already sounds wrong. While he got engaged to another woman and pretended like he had changed in reality, he was still secretly communicating with Nia. January 9th, 2024. Just another ordinary day. Nia got on the bus to school, and CCTV clearly captured that moment. Later that afternoon, the camera recorded her leaving the school grounds, and the driver confirmed she got off at her usual stop on Cornwall and 3M Drive. From that point on, no one ever saw Nia again. Oh no. Earlier that day, she had used her school-issued tablet to message Jarvis. The message read, "Don't forget, be there before 3. I'll let you know when I leave school. If you're not there, I'll wait." And then, "Send okay if you see this so I can delete your number." Jarvis replied. Okay, the last selfie found on that device was the final image of Nia while she was still safe. The next day, January 10th, Annette Harris, Nia's grandmother, reported her missing. Many criticized her for waiting too long to contact police. But honestly, she wasn't the only one who underestimated the situation. The Detroit Public Schools District decided to handle the situation internally. They assumed it was just a typical teenage runaway case. So instead of calling law enforcement, they assigned the matter to School Resource Officer Derek Wolf. Annette, meanwhile, kept wondering, how could she have vanished between the bus stop and the front door, since that distance was only a short walk? It took an entire month, until February 13th, for the school district to finally hand the case over to the Detroit Police Department, once they realized it was far beyond their capacity. Yeah, 1 month. A whole month, just to admit this wasn't a simple attendance issue. Investigators began searching for leads. They spoke with Nia's friends and classmates, hoping someone knew something. At first, nothing. Total silence. But slowly, that silence started to crack. Some classmates said Nia had talked about planning to run away. And you know how kids are. They're extremely loyal to each other. According to Police Chief Lab Jackson, that made the early investigation nearly impossible to move forward. He said, "Sometimes they think they're helping their friend by keeping a secret, but really, they're making it harder to find them." As police continued searching for Nazia, Annette told reporters,
"I want my baby home, and I'm asking in the name of Jesus, and I stand on my faith that he's going to bring her home. And we're asking anybody that has any information, I don't care who it is, please come forth, contact the police department. Her life could be in danger. We can't rule anything out, and I'm hoping and praying that that is not the case. I'm standing on my faith that God is going to bring my baby home. But it's been really rough. Footage of her getting on the school bus, and the bus driver did say that she did get off at her regular stop, okay? And she was supposed to have been coming home, like she normally do, every day. When a child is missing, you got to look everywhere. I had no idea that it was going to be here. I was just told that this is where it was going to be. Nazia needs to be home with her family, and we love her. So if you are harboring her, there is a law for that. And I'm asking that whoever has any information about my granddaughter, to please contact the police.
Police quickly realized that Nia wasn't the kind of teenager who disappeared just to get attention. She had never skipped school without permission, was very active on social media, and showed absolutely no signs of wanting to run away from anything. The fact that she suddenly went completely silent, no posts, no messages, no activity at all, was totally out of character for Nia. And if you're a parent, when a lively child suddenly goes quiet like that, something is definitely wrong. February 14th, 2024. Detroit police organized a grid search around Nia's neighborhood, covering a radius of about 4 miles from her home. They handed out flyers, deployed K-9 units, and even got help from people who usually don't work with law enforcement, including local gang members, to join the search. That's right, when a child goes missing, the line between sides doesn't matter anymore. Everyone just wants one thing, to bring her home. Public Safety Chief Lab Jackson said during a press conference, "We can't operate on hope alone. We have to work with information." A short sentence, but chilling. Because when hope isn't enough, it means time is working against you. A few days later, on February 20th, police posted the official missing person flyer on Facebook. It read, "Nazia Harris, 5 feet 2 inches tall, about 130 pounds, last seen wearing clear frame glasses, a white sweater, a black jacket or hoodie, a pink and white Rugrats fur collar coat, light blue jeans, and blue and white Nike sneakers. Her hair was styled in 2 small puffs, exactly like in her final selfie, an image that now leaves anyone who sees it heartbroken. Before Nia went missing, her father, Vin Jennings, had suffered a severe stroke caused by chronic heart disease. When he heard his daughter was reported missing, he was hospitalized immediately. But whenever his health allowed, he still tried to join the search alongside everyone else, he said in an interview.
Know me, and they coming out. They came up to see me at the hospital. They asked me some questions about my daughter. Have I seen her? And I haven't seen my daughter. You have moments in your life where you do think you're standing alone.
Nia's disappearance shattered her entire family. Some relatives were furious, insisting that Jarvis should never have been allowed anywhere near her, especially without supervision. And honestly, they were right. Jarvis should never have been near Nia, not for a single minute. On February 15th, 2024, a detective from the Detroit Police Department and his partner questioned Jarvis Butts. At that time, he was being held in connection with another incident. Jarvis claimed he hadn't seen Nia since late December or early January, saying they had both been at her grandmother's house then. It sounded reasonable, until detectives pressed further about the messages exchanged between him and Nia. Jarvis replied that Nia would sometimes visit the auto shop where he worked to see his daughter. At first, it seemed like an innocent explanation, but it didn't match the digital evidence. When asked about his schedule on January 9th, Jarvis said he was dealing with some legal matters that day, specifically a concealed weapon charge. And yes, that was partially true. He had a surrender warrant, and his new fiancée had driven him to the police station to turn himself in. But here's the problem. His surrender date had actually been postponed until February, meaning that on January 9th he was still completely free. On March 6th, investigators shifted their focus to a pond near the intersection of Gratiot Avenue and Quinn Road in Clinton Township, just behind a shopping center. They suspected the location might contain evidence or even clues possibly connected to Nia. Search teams dove in, scanned the area, and dredged the mud, but found nothing. On March 7th, a woman named Valerie Smith called the Detroit Police Department. For 2 weeks, she had been walking past a school ID card lying on the sidewalk. One day, she stopped, picked it up, and instantly recognized the face of Nia Harris. It was the first real piece of evidence that moved the investigation forward. On March 12th, a Border Patrol agent, Wyatt Barnes, happened to discover a pile of discarded clothing near 7M and Berg, right next to the Rouge River. Among the items, search teams recovered several of Nia's personal belongings, including shoes, clothes, and a towel. Some of the items showed possible signs of a struggle, and investigators collected samples for DNA testing. Yet after March, the case fell silent once again. No new discoveries, no public statements from police, only waiting and unanswered questions. It wasn't until August 15th that the public finally heard the first update after months of silence. And you know what? It completely changed how we viewed this case. Detroit police released a detailed timeline summary of January 9th. When Nia got off her school bus, she met Jarvis along with one of his co-workers. They took her to the auto shop where Jarvis worked. Jarvis's sister was also there. She saw Nia walk in, but said nothing. No questions, no reaction. Then all three, Jarvis, Nia, and the co-worker, left, driving to Ypsilanti before returning to the shop. According to records, Jarvis had rented a room overnight at a location matching the time frame of the incident. The front desk clerk later confirmed this information and provided the documentation to police. Jarvis's phone, yes, the one he tried to retrieve while in jail, showed GPS coordinates placing him near the Rouge River on January 10th, right after Nia went missing, and before her clothes were later found in that area. Forensic analysis also revealed that the exchanges between the two showed signs of crossing appropriate boundaries. They were enough to establish a potential motive for this crime. On September 26, 2024, Nia messaged Jarvis about a personal health concern that was worrying her. In the messages, she sounded confused and sought adult help, but instead of receiving proper support, she was misled. 2 months later, on November 27th, she sent another series of messages expressing fear and asking for help, the innocent words of a child looking for safety. Those messages, when revealed in court, showed that Nia had been manipulated and her trust exploited by an adult. Reading those words, it hurts. A 13-year-old girl talking about a fitness grade, when in reality, she was asking for help. Around that same time, Jarvis's search history revealed that he had been looking up information related to minors' personal health issues, including risky and prohibited material. One of the search results mentioned a dangerous chemical that could cause serious harm if used incorrectly. Meanwhile, data retrieved from Naya's device indicated, according to investigation reports, that both of their search histories showed signs of distress. Though details were not disclosed, they were both trapped in a spiral of despair, but only one of them survived to face justice. On August 15th, Detroit police submitted an official arrest request to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. Shortly after, Jarvis was taken into custody. At first, many thought this was simply a step forward in Nia's missing person case. But in reality, it was much bigger than that. Prosecutors began compiling every record of child protection violations Jarvis had committed in the past. Then, on September 26th, police officially reclassified the case from missing person to criminal case with tragic circumstances. During the press conference, Prosecutor Kim Worthy stated plainly, "The evidence in this case shows that what the defendant did was not just predatory. It was the behavior of a cruel individual. He manipulated, exploited trust, and targeted Nia in a systematic way. We believe the outcome left her with no chance to return after finding evidence that she had been manipulated and deeply traumatized psychologically." That same month, Prosecutor Kim Worthy stood before cameras in a statewide press briefing. She summarized the entire investigative journey, the months spent piecing together clues, the endless interviews, and the relentless work of a team that turned what once seemed like a hopeless disappearance into a complete criminal case.
We must be very careful who we let into our hearts and our homes and our lives, especially if you have children. We must be very careful who we have around our children and elders respectively. We must also be very careful who we leave our children with, even if they are in relationship partners, family, and friends. I'll say that again. Even if they are relationship partners, families, or friends. Life can be hard enough at times. But when it comes to our children, we must be deliberative, we must be diligent, and laser focused on their safety. And sometimes we must make decisions about them and their lives that we may not like and that they may not like, but it's for the betterment of them and their safety and their future. When something doesn't feel right, even if it's just that voice in your head, it usually isn't right. And sometimes when we are attentive and we do everything right by our children, things can still happen and still go very wrong despite our best efforts. This can happen to good watchers of children. But we must always ask ourselves at the end of each and every day, was I right by each member of my household in terms of their safety? Did I do right by my children?
September 27th, after nearly 9 months of investigation, Jarvis Butts finally faced a full indictment. He was charged with first-degree intentional acts leading to tragedy, along with multiple counts of severe offenses against minors, including criminal behavior that dated back years before he ever targeted Nia. And that wasn't all. Prosecutors also filed a series of additional charges connected to older cases, other children, other evidence, all pointing to the same man, Jarvis. October 10th, the preliminary hearing was held at the Wayne County Court before Judge Aaliyah Sabri. Jarvis was escorted into the courtroom, head down, silent. His defense attorney attempted to request bail pending trial, but Judge Sabri needed only one sentence. "This individual is a clear danger to the community." Yup, bail denied.
See anything in there that would have caused Messiah to die naturally?
No.
However, when the defense cross-examined him...
Is it your job to declare somebody as deceased? Typically?
Typically, I am the pronouncing doctor when we respond to a death on a scene.
Okay, so if you were to go and view something yourself and have personal knowledge of the circumstances surrounding the incident.
Correct.
Detroit Police Sergeant Shannon Jones also testified. She explained that when she inherited the case, there were immediate red flags.
Number one, she's never been missing before. There's been no updates on any of her social media, which is very uncommon for a young child or juvenile. They're addicted to those. There had been a last known contact that she had possibly met somebody, is what we were informed, that there was a text message.
Jones also discussed items found during the River Rouge area search, like the shoe, later determined to be a match to those belonging to Harris. The sergeant says investigators executed at least 20 search warrants, including electronic devices belonging to Butts. They testified that they discovered questionable Google searches from December 2023, a month before Harris disappeared. The searches surround the belief that Butts wanted to find ways to conceal getting Naziah pregnant.
What's visited, it's Drink Me and Abort Your Baby, the herbal abortion tea by Maya. And the site visited is plannedparenthood.org/learn/abortion/the abortion pill.
In the days that followed, the Detroit courtroom witnessed 3 deeply emotional days. A continuous preliminary hearing held at the 36th District Court. A total of 24 people were called to testify, including family members, medical experts, investigative officers, and witnesses who had taken part in the search for Naziah. One of the most notable witnesses was Sergeant Shannon Jones, who took over the case once the investigation was expanded. She described how she immediately noticed the red flags when reviewing the file, especially the fact that Naziah had suddenly stopped all activity on social media, which, as she stated, is very rare for a child as active as she was. Jones also confirmed that the investigative team had examined more than 20 electronic devices and found suspicious searches in Jarvis's Google history, including terms related to herbal abortion and abortion pill, details that indicated an attempt to conceal something serious. In court, the Wayne County Deputy Medical Examiner was also called to testify, confirming that Naziah's medical records showed no health conditions that could explain her disappearance. However, he clarified that no official forensic statement could yet be made because she had not been found. Jarvis remained in custody without the possibility of release, and due to his prior criminal history, he was officially classified as a dangerous repeat offender. This time, the emotional weight came from within Nia's own family. Her aunt, Tiffany Jennings, who had chosen to remain silent until now, appeared publicly for the first time since Jarvis's arrest. Reporter Shaw Lay asked her a question that instantly shifted the mood in the room. Who do you believe was responsible for protecting Nia from Jarvis?
Oh, what a loaded question, right, Sean? In my personal opinion, with no affiliation, there are multiple parties involved, as many have already stated. And I just have to hold on to hope that the entire truth will come to light. This is the beginning of the truth, and we're very grateful for this part, but the entire story will come out.
Naziah had only just begun to rebuild her relationship with her father and her father's side of the family. She was just learning how to trust again, how to come home, when everything was cut short by someone who should never have been allowed near her. In an interview after Jarvis's arrest, Tiffany Jennings, Nia's aunt, said something that sent chills down everyone's spine. She didn't just talk about Jarvis. She implied that those closest to Nia also shared some responsibility, directly or indirectly, for this tragedy. A single sentence that made the entire Detroit community ask, who really protected that child? From November 1st, 2024 to January 6th, 2025, the official trial took place. The courtroom was packed. Nia's family sat in the front row, quiet but resolute, The prosecution didn't focus only on Nazia. They also expanded the case to include other girls who had once been Jarvis's targets. 2 of his previous victims, now ages 20 and 13, appeared in court to testify. The room fell completely silent. Then came Cordell King Wright, Jarvis's former co-worker, who was also being held at the Wayne County Jail on other charges. Cordell testified that he and Jarvis had picked up Nazia on her way from AutoZone and brought her back to the auto shop on January 9th. He said, "I didn't see that little girl again after that day." Jarvis's sister, Tijuana Butts, was also called to the stand. She said she saw a young girl getting in and out of Jarvis's white Cadillac Escalade that day. Later, she realized it was Nia. She could even identify the outfit Nia was wearing, matching the evidence found near the Rouge River. Jarvis's former fiancée, Tashiana Davis, also took the stand. You remember her, right? She was the one who drove Jarvis to the police station the day he turned himself in. She testified that Jarvis was obsessive about his phone, controlling to a disturbing degree, and, romantically involved in the worst possible way. She stayed with him because she thought he was good with kids. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. Another former girlfriend of Jarvis testified that he had borrowed her car on January 9th. When she got it back, she found a pair of glasses inside. They matched perfectly with the ones Nazia always wore, and that was just the beginning. When investigators were called to testify, they presented text message evidence between Jarvis and Nazia. The first recorded message dated back to September 2022, when Nazia was only 12 years old. Jarvis had gone to the Harris home when no one else was there. He texted Nazia saying he had taken one of her personal items. He pressured her, emotionally manipulated her, made her feel guilty for not doing what he wanted. And when she refused, he made her feel even more at fault. You could feel the heavy silence in the courtroom at that moment, as everyone listened to each message being read aloud, every line a piece of childhood being crushed. Finally, after several days of trial, Judge Aliyah Sabri stood, and the courtroom fell completely silent. She looked straight at Jarvis Butts. "Stand up," she said.
You've been sitting over there for 4 days with your head down, sitting between and behind your attorneys with your mask on and taking vigorous notes. I want you to pay attention and listen to everything I have to say. I have been trying to figure out for the last 5 days, you. At one point I thought you were cognitively impaired in the beginning of this exam. And then maybe you had the brain of a 10-year-old and that's why you were doing such things. But as I heard more and more testimony, you are just the true definition of a problem. Watching you laugh and brag about all the women you have with different women and the children and the girlfriends, and making babies to groom them, and having them in your presence, and cleaning up, quote, cleaning up your shop, and the little girls around you, has landed you here today. You groomed Nazia. You played mind games with her. We all heard that. You controlled her emotionally. She was exposed to so much at such a young age. The text messages between you two were disgusting to hear. And to think that she had you saved in her phone as bae for life. Nazia deserved so much more. And while I mentioned other people that failed her, Jarvis Butts, you are the monster in this whole picture. She did deserve love from her parents and everyone who was in her life. She was ignored, she was neglected, and you took complete advantage of that. She wanted someone to love her, and she will never know what that feels like. Your children deserve more. As much as the defense counsel has raised issues on count 1, all that has done is raise the question of fact for the trier of fact, which means that this will be for a jury or a judge to hear in Third Circuit. I pray for the healing of all the victims and the young girls and possibly boys who have come into contact with you. As a community, we should look at this case as a prime example of how much work we have to do when it comes to protecting our children and especially our black girls. I pray for closure and healing for all those who have been traumatized by you. And for you, Jarvis Butts, I wish you a speedy trial and that justice be delivered.
In court, the public heard Jarvis's voice for the first time through the recorded interrogation. He told investigators that
everything is in my phone. Y'all have possession of my phone. Take a look at it, go through it. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know why would she say that.
However, a co-worker from the auto shop took the stand and testified that she saw Jarvis and Nazia together at the shop on the very night the girl disappeared, directly contradicting his entire defense. Police also stated that Jarvis was fully aware of Nazia's bus stop location, which led investigators to believe he had planned everything in advance. Even though the girl's body has not yet been found, prosecutors confirmed they are piecing together every small detail: GPS data, search history, and DNA samples collected near the Rouge River to build a complete picture. After the case became public, rapper Trayvon Gardner, also known by his stage name Skillabee, was one of the first to speak out. He was from Detroit, the same city as Nazia, and he had followed the story from the very beginning. When news officially confirmed that Nazia Harris had passed away, Skillabee posted on Instagram saying he would personally cover all the expenses for her memorial service. That post spread across social media, but afterward, his account went almost completely blank, with no more public uploads. Only a few screenshots remain, small fragments of how one artist chose to honor a girl he had never met. Roxy, Nazia's cousin, confirmed that several other celebrities, including Skila Baby, also reached out to her. Roxy told reporters, "My goal is to make sure Nazia Harris's story reaches the entire world." And it did, because this isn't just happening in Detroit, it's happening everywhere. She continued, her voice trembling but firm. Now, more women and young girls are speaking up, and that's what I wanted. Not just for Nazia to get justice, but for every girl, every woman who's ever been hurt to be heard and protected. Nazia's story was also amplified by Mark DeAndre, founder of the podcast 7 Mile Radio. As early as February 2024, Mark dedicated several live episodes to interviewing the family, including Nazia's father, Vin Jennings. Through those broadcasts, the case began gaining attention across the Detroit community and eventually grew into a wider movement for justice. However, behind the scenes, things weren't entirely smooth. By January 2025, Roxy and Mark DeAndre announced the end of their collaboration. Roxy wrote on Facebook, "I regret to inform everyone that I am no longer part of the 7 Mile Radio team. This wasn't an easy decision, but it's what's best for my journey right now. I wish Mark nothing but the best in the future." As for other creators, like Black Girl Gone and Chanitra Speaks, they continued exploring the aspects that mainstream media hadn't covered yet, such as Nazia's family dynamics and the rumors surrounding the investigation. And, as Mike often says, we'll only talk about what can be verified. So, if you want to learn more, we'll link those channels in the description. But what matters most is to never forget where this story began. A 13-year-old girl, a cry for help that went unanswered, and a system that failed to hear her voice. In February 2025, the Department of Health and Human Services finally released an official statement. A short, vague press release read, "Our hearts go out to the family and friends of Nazia Harris, but we cannot discuss specific cases due to state and federal regulations. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, MDHHS, remains deeply committed to ensuring the health and safety of all children. And that was it. No apology, no acknowledgement of responsibility. Just a standard paragraph, the same kind we've heard in dozens of other cases. But Detroit didn't stay silent. On Change.org, multiple petitions demanding justice for Nazia began circulating. One of the largest was created by Tamara Liberty Smith, vice president of the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners and a close friend of Nazia's father, Emvin Jennings, for over 35 years. In an open letter to Child Protective Services, CPS, Tamara wrote, "The safety and well-being of our children must be the highest priority. Recent events have exposed a serious gap in CPS enforcement, allowing individuals with known risk histories to have access to children, despite prior warnings." She continued, "The tragic loss of Nazia Harris highlights the urgent need for immediate action. Her life was cut short because of a record that should have been prevented. This tragedy was entirely avoidable." In the petition, Tamara outlined 4 specific actions. 1. Review and tighten CPS policies, especially regarding contact between children and individuals with risk histories. 2. Strengthen oversight and compliance to ensure no warning is ever ignored. 3. Mandate accountability and transparent reporting for guardians who knowingly place children in unsafe environments. 4. Provide better support and resources for families to help them make safer choices. Her petition now has more than 30,000 signatures, and it's still open to this day. In addition, there are other petitions calling for an investigation into the responsibility of grandmother Annette and Aunt Shannon for allowing Jarvis into Nazia's life. It's a sensitive subject, because sometimes misplaced trust can also cost a child's life. Jarvis Butts is scheduled to stand trial on October 6, 2025. He faces a life sentence without parole. However, until the official trial takes place, he remains legally presumed innocent. As for Nazia's father, Emvin Jennings, he passed away in August 2024 due to chronic heart disease. No one knows whether he lived long enough to learn the truth about what happened to his daughter, or the man responsible for it.
Yeah, so she was a fun-loving girl. They got a lot of time to spend time together. He always talked about ice cream trucks and her riding a bike. He was already sick, but this took him over the edge. With all the might in his body, he was out every day searching, looking, doing as much as he could to bring awareness and to bring his baby home.
A close friend of Nazia's father, Tamara Liberty Smith, along with family members, has spoken on his behalf, demanding that justice be served. Tamara Liberty Smith told reporters, "He died of a broken heart. He passed away not knowing where his daughter was. He searched for her endlessly, and then left this world without answers. I just hope the family gets the justice they deserve. I'm not sure we're still searching for someone alive, but no matter what, the family needs answers, and those responsible must be held accountable." Nazia Harris, a 13-year-old girl, full of life, bright, and supposed to still be in school, is now just a name in an open case file. A case that should never have happened. The case of Nazia Harris is not only the tragedy of a 13-year-old girl in Detroit, it is a mirror reflecting the deep failures of the child protection system, where cries for help are ignored again and again. A smart, innocent child who only wanted love and safety, ultimately betrayed by the very people who were supposed to protect her. Police Chief James White stated that,
"We are prepared very soon to make an announcement on this case. What I can tell you is that it's not going to be the desired outcome that any of us want. And I have to stop there, as Madam Prosecutor will probably start ringing my phone here in a minute."
Jarvis Butts may be the one who committed the cruel act, But it was the system's indifference that stole Nazia's chance to grow up, to smile, and to become the person she dreamed of being. Nazia deserves to be remembered not only as a child victim, but as a symbol of justice for victims, and of a child protection system that must be reformed. Every story like this is a reminder that CPS failure isn't just a paperwork error. It's about lives. It's about the future of innocent children. Remember the name, Nazia Harris. Let her story serve as a wake-up call for all of us. That justice isn't only about catching the guilty, but about preventing another child from being lost in silence. Thank you for staying until the end of this heartbreaking but necessary story. Nazia Harris deserves to be remembered, not just as a name in a file, but as a reminder of our shared responsibility to protect vulnerable children. If you believe that Nazia and other child victims deserve justice for victims, please share this video, and subscribe so we can continue telling true crime documentaries about justice, truth, and compassion. Every interaction helps keep Nazia's memory alive, ensures her voice is never forgotten, and helps build a better child protection system, one where CPS failure is no longer accepted as a mistake. Leave a comment below. What do you think society needs to change so that no other child like Nazia Harris ever has to suffer the same pain again?